Mr. Dan Phillips is going to do our invocation, and Mr. Pickens will do our Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Chairman, as we open this morning, there's a storm fixing to come our way. And through God's grace, we here in Putnam County are probably going to be spared the greatest brunt of it. But some of our neighbors here in Florida are going to catch a walloping. Now, I know that when I grew up, we used to tease about folks over in the Panhandle, but they're our neighbors. They're Floridians. People can talk about Putnam County being number 66 or 67, or maybe we'll get 70 counties and Putnam County can be 70. But Mr. Chairman, we don't have to be at the bottom of the list when it comes time to have an opportunity to help our neighbors. So may I request, please, sir, to you and through you to our county leadership, as soon as we become aware of a need of our neighbors, may we as Putnam County unite and extend a helping hand, a loving heart, and all the compassion that we can. Let's pray. Father, we know that there is a storm brewing and coming our way, and Father, according to the trajectories and weather plots and everything, we've got a pretty good idea where it's going. It's going to hit some of your people, and many of your people, Father, will be spared. But that doesn't mean that we cannot show love and compassion, help and assistance with what you've given us to do. And so, Father, not just a county government, not just one or two civic groups or churches or organizations, but Father, may your people do all that we can in your name to alleviate the pain and the suffering and the loss and the distress of those that get hurt this week and in the coming days. And Father, in this room this morning, as business and government is conducted, may we always, always remember that, Father, we are in your presence, that you have ordained this measure of government, and Father, everything that is done and said in this place should be pleasing to you. And Father, we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody hears. We got to still break it.
At this time, we're going to make a 2-minute recess. We look right on schedule.
Okay.
Since I've already, let's move on to our next. Okay, we'll reconvene. All right. Gentlemen, have you had a chance to look at the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of minutes of September 25th regular meeting, September 18th special workshop meeting, and September 11th workshop meeting.
A proper first and a proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we move for approval. And now we'll move into our recess of our meeting again and open our Port Authority. Again, has anybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes of September 11th regular meeting of the Port Authority.
Okay, we have a proper first
second.
and a proper second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good, that moves. And do we have any public comment on any Port Authority items? Any public comment on Port Authority items? Seeing none, I'll close that portion.
Mr. Chairman, before we close, if I could, y'all requested a monthly update on the proceedings we have going on with the tenant out at the barge port. At this point, we have filed for eviction. He has defaulted. There was not a response. We have a hearing scheduled on October 23rd at 2 p.m. And at this point, we've been billed about, I'm going to say, $6,500 to date in that matter. And hopefully, as part of the process, we'll get an order for those costs to be paid. If there's any funds to be had to do so, we'll certainly seek that as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
May I have Mr. Manning, just so the audience knows and our public knows, we're not evicting a business out of there. They just have not fulfilled their obligations that they came to us and said that they would do. And job creations and things did not happen. So,
Well, that's correct, although we are evicting them for that reason.
right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comment? Seeing none, we'll adjourn the Port Authority and we'll reconvene our regular meeting. And we have a proclamation which will be read by, make sure I'm in the right spot here, by Mr. Chip Lyman.
Okay. Need to invite your folks to the podium.
Yes. Excuse me. Lori Slavin. There she is. Yeah. Actually, everyone that's with the Lee Conley House, please come up.
Everybody's got purple on. I should have worn.
Domestic violence month. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read into the minutes a proclamation number 2018 Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a crime that impacts all citizens of Putnam County, and whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, taking a dramatic toll on the criminal justice system, law enforcement, the healthcare community, and society as a whole. And whereas each year in Putnam County, an estimated 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men are victims of domestic violence that would translate to 13,000 individuals affected in our county. And whereas it is vital for our community to support the victims of domestic violence and assist with their grave financial, physical, and psychological losses, and to impose legal sanctions against perpetrators of personal violence. And whereas Lee Conley House is the only domestic violence center in Putnam County providing 24-hour service and counseling to victims and their families, and has awarded certification through Florida's Department of Children and Families. And whereas the Putnam County Board of Commission urges all citizens to actively participate in and support all programs sponsored by the Lee Conley House, thereby assisting in the elimination of domestic violence in our community.
Now therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners of Putnam County, Florida, that October 2018 is designated as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Putnam County to participate in planned activities benefiting the Lee Conley House in its mission to provide shelter and support services to the victims of domestic violence and their families, done, ordered, and adopted on this 9th day of October 2018. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion in support.
Second.
Proper first and a proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners, for recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Got to get in that mic.
Domestic Violence Awareness Month is an opportunity for us to honor survivors of domestic violence and to remember those that are no longer with us. We at Lee Conley House are committed to ending domestic violence through community support, education, and prevention. So now I'd like to thank some of our support system, our wonderful board of directors that are scattered among all these ladies, all these beautiful purple ladies. The Putnam County Health Department and the Violence Intervention and Prevention Program, who offers us support through counseling and response. The Putnam County Sheriff's Department, who has worked diligently to make Putnam County a zero-tolerance domestic violence center or area. Let's see, I don't see anybody represented here, but our state attorney's office, who the advocates there work diligently to help our victims through the criminal justice system. And most importantly, the Lee Conley House advocates who work 24/7 to make sure that survivors of domestic violence are safe, that they're empowered, and that they can move into the community and be productive citizens living a life free of fear. So I'd like to thank all of these support systems and what a wonderful job they do in our community. And before I close, I just want to say that October 23rd, there is an event at the Putnam County Courthouse that begins at 5:30 that is survivor-based, and we'd like the community to come and support our survivors. You'll hear survivor stories directly from the survivors, and it's going to be a great time, and it's going to empower them to know that they have the support of the community. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before you get up for a picture, could I just make a couple of comments? As I look out at your staff and see some young faces with you, I want to make sure that I tell the story of why the Lee Conley House is named the Lee Conley House. And Lee Conley served on the city commission for almost 30 years. And back in the early 80s, he had a vision for what we see today. And back then, we were a subunit of the Alachua County domestic violence effort, which meant that all the funds that would be allocated to us, because we weren't a certified shelter, went to Alachua County. And they tried to do what they could, but they had needs too. So we struggled a lot back then with trying to make all that happen here. And so Commissioner Lee Conley, Vice Mayor Lee Conley, and I served on the city commission at the same time when he started this effort. And so worked with FDACV and others to get our shelter certified. And our first shelter was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. That's where the shelter was. And he had worked out an arrangement with the Palaca Housing Authority, who provided that house. That was the basis of how all this started. Back then, Putnam County always ranked as the highest per capita incidence of domestic violence. And with the great work of the Lee Conley House and the staff and the several directors we've had, and the help of those that you mentioned, the sheriff's office, the health department, state's attorney, clerk of court, all those folks began a project to provide information to the community and say there are resources if you are in that situation. And it's not something that you should be ashamed of. Come help yourself by reaching out. So now folks can talk to the hotline, either the local hotline or the state hotline, get resources. And so we've moved off of that list, not a lot, but we're making strides in the right direction away from the highest per capita. And so I want to congratulate all of you, and also to remember my dear friend Lee Conley and how all this started. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Chairman, why don't you get back on? Step on. Thank you very much. You're fine, as tall as I am.
John Raymond, you're blocking my face.
It's fun to be out
Not as funny as he thinks.
Good job. Wait. There, okay.
Again, thank you.
Thank you.
That's a hell of a donation.
Miss Mary, don't get very far.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
If you wouldn't mind telling us anything about the flu going on?
I'd be happy to.
Well, thank you.
This year, the flu is supposed to be much stronger than it was last year. Last year, we had 16 active outbreaks in Putnam County and no deaths. But it's projected to be much stronger this year. So one of the things that we are going to do, and if you'll mark your calendars, and I invite you all to come help, on October the 19th, we are going to do a drive-through pod flu vaccination clinics. We will have one in Interlochen at the Interlochen High School. We will have one at the Palatka High School and one at the Crescent City High School. So I'll encourage each of you to come help out that day. It'll be from noon to 4 o'clock in your jurisdictions. It'd be great. And if you can get assistance, that would be wonderful. We will be doing, basically, you will drive in. We've got assistance and the support of the school district, the sheriff's office, the Department of Health's influenza and immunization office, and the preparedness office, and other community partners working together. The Palatka Police Department, Fire and Rescue. We'll be working on setting up the pods. You will be able to stay in your vehicles. We will send out the forms probably this week if you wanted to pre-fill them. We will do any ages from 3 through, any ages, 3 on up. We will not be offering the high dose for individuals over 65, but if you can't afford that or don't have insurance, then I would suggest that you get the one that we have. It's all 100% free until our supplies are exhausted. So October the 19th from 12 to 4. All right?
Outstanding.
Yeah, and if you will sign up to help or let me know, we will have a meeting Thursday. I will send you the information at the EOC to continue planning for this. All right.
idea.
Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now move to our public comment. We prefer the blue cards, but if you don't have a blue cards after I've finished calling this, then, you come up, name, and your address, and limit it to 3 minutes. Mr. Surrency.
Good morning, Commissioners, staff. Rick Surrency, Superintendent of Schools, Putnam County. 200 Reed Street. And thank you for having me today. I just want to read a short statement, and you should have a copy of a handout that was given to you. Commissioners, thanks for the opportunity to come speak to you again. I appeared before the commission last spring with 3 of our board members to express our concern with the county commission not sharing the $450,000 in pari-mutuel funds with the school district for 2018-19. Until this year, the county has given the school district 45% of the pari-mutuel funds yearly. I understand that both our agencies are budget restrained and do the best we can do with our current resources. After my presentation, it was suggested that I meet with County Administrator Suggs to discuss the matter in detail. After we met, Mr. Suggs indicated that if the financial picture of the county changed, we could revisit the issue. After the recent newspaper published information related to the county increasing its fund balance or reserves to over $7 million, I asked to meet with Mr. Suggs again to discuss the district receiving the funds from the county. After our meeting, I was told the county was not able to share the funds with the district. So I'm here today to ask the commission to reconsider sharing the pari-mutuel funds. The county has shared these funds for decades with the school district as a partner in serving the children of Putnam County. I have provided each of you with a list of examples of the school district donating both financial and real property to the county to serve our citizens. Our school district has made significant gains in the last 2 years in terms of student achievement. Our graduation rate has improved from 54% 3 years ago to a projected 80% in 2018. Our achievement rank among the other school districts in the state has improved from 65th to 58th in the last 2 years. As our district continues its success, our entire county will also benefit. I'm asking that you invest in the future of our county by continuing to partner with the school district. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Cerency.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Rick, I appreciate your stance, I really do, and you know I'm a fan. I think you're doing great with the school system, I truly do, and so, but when we're gonna talk about this 200,000, and I think it's sales tax now, isn't it? It's not pari-mutuel any longer, but whichever. The 200 that you've been traditionally, I think that what gets left out of the discussion here is that the Putnam County already contributes $347,377 towards the SRO program for the safety of the schools, and that's gone up over the years too. Also, this year we're participating in the Guardian program at the rate of $101,100. Hopefully, all or part of that will be reimbursed to us through the governor's set aside for that program, but we don't know that yet. We just hope it will. So I think that part of this discussion needs to be, it's not like we've turned our back on the school systems. We're participating at the rate of about $458,000 right now. Hopefully some of it can be refunded on the Guardian program. So, you know, I just wanted to bring that up. It's not like we've turned our back on you guys, because we believe in schools too.
Yeah. It's
just that we need to do what we think we can do, and this year we gave additional monies to the sheriff's department where they could participate in your SRO program. So
Okay.
I just thought that
Thank you, Mr.
needed
Turner.
to be.
And I did not want to indicate y'all were turning the back. I just want to make sure that we continue our partnership, and any consideration you can give, and you know, working closely with us on the funding would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cerency, I thank you again. I want to piggyback on what Commissioner Turner said. We also had these discussions in our budget workshops, and we brought the fact up of that. So by us participating more with the sheriff's office to provide the leadership and the program that needs to be done to keep our children safe in the school system, we did feel like we upped the ante this year. So just to let you know that.
Well, and again, just for the record, the funding from the state for safe schools also increased, which was totally devoted to SROs in the amount of $750,000 total. So all the money we receive from the state goes directly to the SRO program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Cerency, thank you for what you're doing with the school system.
Thank you.
Next will be Rob Ficker. If you'll give your name and your address, and try to limit it to 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Rob Ficker. My address is 2420 Carr Street, right here in Palatka. I'm the chairman of Peaceful Minds for Medical Marijuana. We have a statewide petition out allowing medical patients to grow up to 9 marijuana plants, and that requires over 750,000 valid signatures. We have to collect over 1 million signatures to get that many valid. It's very difficult, and I've been studying the whole method of it, and honestly, the best way to do it is to go through local efforts, or along with the statewide effort. Insurance does not pay for medical marijuana. It's been shown we have an opiate crisis. It's getting people off the pills like nothing else. Nothing comes even close to solving the opiate crisis like marijuana. And what I'm proposing here in Palatka, there's something called, it's a home charter city. The county of Putnam is not a home charter county, but Palatka is. It's a home chartered city, and in that spirit, I'm talking about something called home rule cannabis. And what it does is it allows people to have cannabis. It makes it so they're not subject to arrest, fine, citation, or penalization, as long as it is out of plain view on residential property only, not on public property, not on commercial property, and not anywhere in plain view. So it basically puts cannabis in the jurisdiction of the person's private residence, and it's out of the jurisdiction of police officers. It violates 0 state laws because of the plain view part of it. If the police officers come on their property, they can now see it, and they can be charged. So as long as a person is not breaking any other laws, they shouldn't be bothered for cannabis at the residence. And what we want to do is call a local vote. The petition calls a vote through getting these signatures, and that's the real power. It's like human power, it's people power, like believing in themselves, believing in their own ability to rule their own homes and their own medicine. This is a medicinal plant. It will hurt no one. It's just going to benefit everyone here in Putnam County. I hope we have the support of Putnam County and its sheriffs to go along with Palatka City. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, thanks. All right, is Mr. Frank Owens in the audience? Okay. No, I didn't see either. Okay. All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment? Okay.
Okay.
All right, seeing none, I'll close that portion. I'll move to our consent agenda. Gentlemen?
I have nothing to pull, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Turner?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull D, please.
Mr. Lible?
I'm fine today.
I have none.
Okay. All right, Mr. Turner?
Yes, I would just like to ask Mr. Siafi if he would come up and maybe give us just an overview of what we're accomplishing here and why we decided to take this in-house. And it's basically that we're going to take over all plan services and permitting and inspections for the city, and we were already doing the lion's share of it. I think they were doing their own submissions, and it's been part of an issue between us and them that if it breaks down with them, we get blamed, and if it breaks down with us, they get blamed. And so I just thought it would be very good for the public to see that why we're taking this over if possible.
Well, the basic premise is to cut the middleman out and provide better service to the citizens of Palatka and also to our department itself. It gives us more control, permitting, everything comes through our office. We can control it, we can track it, we know where it's going on. We're not going to have any more complaints about I've given it to the city, we haven't received it, or vice versa. So it eliminates all the complaints and concerns that I've had since I've started. We bring it in-house, and we have the staff to do it. Unfortunately, Palaca is facing what every other jurisdiction is, and they can't find help. We're in the same position, but we're not at a bad
Thank you.
state.
The biggest thing I wanted to know is that for the people that watch this on television, they can see that the city,
Mr. Chairman.
the city has turned that over to the county if this passes today. So,
Yes,
thank you.
yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Lible?
We have Palaca's city manager with us today, and I'd like to hear some remarks on your behalf on what you think about this proposal also. On the same lines as Commissioner Turner, just informative to the public. And I like the city-county cooperation. That's good.
Thank you, Betsy Driggers, interim city manager for the city of Palaca. We absolutely support this. I think it's going to do exactly what Mr. Siafi and Mr. Turner said. It's going to eliminate a lot of the confusion that's been happening. We've had the agreement in place for about the past year for the county to take over building inspection services, and this just enhances and adds to that agreement. We lose the revenue stream, you guys gain the revenue stream, and hopefully it'll make life easier for all of our citizens, make it easier to come in and build, come in and improve, come in and renovate, and get all those permitting services under a one-stop shopping.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just could add to that briefly. I think we also need to note that the county is not taking over planning and development for the city, just the building. And so if you're going to pull a permit in the city, you still have to go by and get a zoning letter from them, which is fine, but as long as we know it up front, that it's the same way that we do it, I think, in Interlochen and Pomona Park right now, is you have to get a local zoning letter before, and submit it with your permit application. And so, I think that was worthy to be noted, where maybe somebody will get it before they come here first and can't have it.
Yes, sir. We are keeping zoning and we're keeping planning. We've still got our planner, we've still got our planning board, still got our historic preservation board. We still have our Board of Zoning Appeals. We're just transferring all the building and permitting over to the county, and glad to finish forming the partnership on that.
Thank you.
One more question. if I
Mr.
could.
Suggs started
Sure.
a year ago.
I got it?
You go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
You-
No, you go right ahead, sir.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know if any of it was online, was able to be attained online, or this sort of thing.
We have the information online. I'm sure that a lot of the forms are going to change. We're going to have to change our information online to direct people to come to the county, but they'll still be coming to us first for the zoning letter. If they need a zoning letter, there are many things that they won't need a zoning letter for, and they can just come directly to the county. So we're going to, Mr. Siafi and my staff will be getting together on a smooth transition. Hopefully it'll be smooth. We'll change all the information online. We'll get all that together, and hopefully this is a win-win for the city, the county, and the citizens.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Harvey?
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey.
You're welcome,
I didn't
Commissioner.
realize you
No,
were
you're fine, sir.
requesting the
You
floor,
were,
too.
you were fine. Ms. Siafi, let me ask you a question. And one of them just got answered, the other municipalities, we do Interlochen and Pomona Park, I just heard that. Does our county and city with the Palaca, does our codes match? Or do we have to put on different hats when someone comes in the room and says, City of Palaca, County of Putnam?
Right, no, it's statewide Florida building code.
Okay.
So everything we enforce in Putnam County gets enforced in Palaca. It's
Okay.
all the same codes.
And I think my concern was when we started this a while back, it was on a temporary basis because the city needed some help.
Right.
And my concern was us driving up in county vehicles representing the city, really wishing we had city emblems on our trucks or whatever, but that's irregardless. I understand that, but as long as we can identify that we're working for the city of Palaca or the city of Interlochen, the town of Interlochen, or the town of Pomona Park when we're out there, I think that helps. One thing I want to caution on, I think our future is bright. I think Putnam County is going to see growth in the next many years. I don't know how long we can keep up with that if we have our own influx of businesses and building permits coming in on a county basis. So, but I'm sure you'll let us know when that time comes that you're overwhelmed and cannot continue that process, so.
I don't foresee that happening, but I will update you.
I want
if
that to
it gets
happen.
there.
I want that. I want to see us that
Us
busy.
being overwhelmed.
Yes,
That's what I'm-
I understand.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Turner.
I noticed in the agreement that I read that, they have a 60-day cancellation notice on either side. So with it, so all you have to do is give 60 days notice and we could stop doing it if it got so busy. I'm with you, I want it to happen, but it's gonna be a little while yet, and so I think we'll be fine. The other thing is, just for another informational purpose, is I think we're fairly close to having new online permitting software. And so once we get it in place for the county, then the city contractors and what have you can also use that system for permitting. They can sit home and file for a permit. I think they're still gonna have to go to the city and get a zoning letter unless we can figure out a way when we're doing this process that we could do it through email or through something where somebody doesn't have to make a special trip to the city just to pull a permit for them at the county. So, and then while we're going through this change of technology, perhaps that could be one of our things that we look at, and maybe we can work something out.
I have a upcoming meeting with the planning director for Palaca. We're gonna figure out the easiest and smoothest way to get that letter to the county. So I can update you on where we're standing with that, but
Thank you. Next Tuesday.
yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we, accept this item.
Okay. Now, is that all A through R?
You wanna do them all at once, or just the one I pulled? Okay, yeah, I'll do them all at once. I move that we pass A through R on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Proper first and proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda moves. Thank you, guys. Now we can,
Mr. Off, thank you, Betsy. Mr. Trigger, excuse me.
Mr. Tim Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to mention, since you had a presentation earlier from Mary Garcia about the flu issue coming up, that next Tuesday in the tax deed building, the old county commission meeting room, is an opportunity for county employees to get their flu shot. All they have to bring is their ID and their insurance card, and there's no cost to them, and that's from 10 to 2. So I think Marjorie is going to be sending out a notice to everyone, alerting them to that, but I wanted to mention that today. Also, earlier when I spoke about the Lee Conley House, I did want to add one other item to that, and that is that my wife Darlene was a victim advocate for the Lee Conley House for 8 years, so I lived and breathed advocacy in my house and still do to this day, and I wanted to thank her for her years of service to the Lee Conley House. In addition, I'd like to mention that we have a new service at the clerk's office. Certified documents available electronically now. If you have a document that's either in the court system or in the official records that you need a certified copy, you can go to our website and order that online. It gets emailed to you. It has a verification process so that if you then send that on to someone electronically, they can verify that it was a document certified by the clerk of the court, which doesn't require you to make a visit down to our office and stand in line and wait to get a certified copy. So I encourage folks that need that to take advantage. One example of that is with the new driver's license identification requirements. When you renew your driver's license, some folks need, particularly women, need to bring copies of marriage licenses because their names change, and you can now order those online and save you the trip down there. In addition, I'd like to remind folks that we do also offer a service for deed fraud protection. This is a simple process, doesn't cost you anything. You go to our website, click on the fraud protection icon. It takes you through a couple of steps where you can register your name with us, and if any document gets filed in the official records that matches the name that you've asked us to monitor, you will get an email notification and a copy of the document that was filed. It could be a legitimate document, but it also might be something fraudulent. So it gives you a chance to have a little extra layer of protection for particularly deeds and mortgages. That's generally where those documents are, have some fraud filed against them. So it's very simple. You just register your name and we monitor it, and we'll send you a message if something ever matches that. So all those are good services available at your clerk of the court's office. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman, may I ask the clerk a question?
Yes, sir.
If you need something recorded, you still have to carry it in, but for the certified copy, you get it out.
If you're a private individual and you want to record a document, you have to bring that in. We do offer e-recording for commercial entities, so abstractors, title companies, those that, you go and sign documents and get a mortgage and get a deed, those are sent to us electronically, and just within a few minutes they're recorded, and you're able then to, if you need a certified copy of one of those, they're available. But because you have to set up escrow accounts to make that happen, it doesn't make sense for just the individual to do that, because most individuals rarely record a lot of documents. So, but for the commercial entities that do a lot of that, they do that. But we are working with the county to be able to accept commencement orders from the Planning and Development Department electronically, so that the person doesn't have to bring that down to us. They could just be sent from the Planning and Development Department down, and we would accept that.
Good deal, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Since we have a 10 o'clock certain,
Nope, we don't. Got pulled.
so
Good deal.
I will leave this up to our attorney to explain this.
Mr. Brown is in the audience. May you call Mr. Brown?
Oh, wait a minute. Let me see what.
You might get an update on
Put that on the record.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We need to go ahead and have Mr. Brown come up and address item 10 on your agenda this morning, the public hearing of a letter received late yesterday.
Thank you
We
very
have
much.
to wait till 10 o'clock time certain to discuss this issue.
Well,
It was advertised.
my understanding is that they're withdrawing their applications. In that case, no.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and Commission, Mike Brown, Planning and Development Services. Yesterday afternoon, the applicant for the proposed rezoning, Michael and Cynthia Burton, formally withdrew their application for the PUD for the PUD rezoning. They just decided they wanted to withdraw at this point. They may come back in the future, but they were rethinking what they wanted to do with the property, and the PUD as proposed no longer fit in their plan. So they just formally withdrew the application, which they have the right to do with the Land Development Code.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown, you just said that they might come back in the future. This item won't come back in the future.
Right.
It would be something new if they wanted
this-
to do something.
This application is done with the
Okay, just
with the withdrawal.
clarification of
It
that,
will be
okay.
a new application treated
Okay, good.
as any other one would be.
So they're not postponing a PUD?
No,
This is
no.
over with?
This is done. They withdrew their application.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on this?
Can we ask you a lot of questions anyway?
I was ready to.
In general,
Not at 10 o'clock.
I'm kidding, Mike, thank you.
well, if you're not talking about this particular case, but in general, 'cause I sure had one I wanted to ask. And let me know if we need to wait till 10 when you hear my question, if you would, Mr. Manning.
Well, there is no hearing on this matter at this point.
So we can
so-
just talk in general, okay? In general, theoretically, someone could buy a house in that area, put it on the Airbnb or whatever it's called, the web thing where you can rent it out by the week or the weekend or whatever. And those people that rent it could come in and have a birthday party, a wedding, pretty much whatever they want to do. Is that not correct, or have I missed something?
That is correct.
Okay, so the
the
only
county
thing that,
has-
if we had have had granted a PUD. The only thing we would have done was possibly put some restrictions on a PUD that otherwise they can pretty much do anyhow. They just can't have a commercial venture on the property, but they can still do it by renting it to somebody and letting them do it. No, I think so.
No, you're right.
I mean, and the reason that I looked at it from this way is we have several of them in the county. One that's been complained to me multiple times on over in the Palm Port area, where somebody came to town and bought a house on the canal in Palm Port and rents it out on the, and I'm sure I don't know the name of it, but I think it's the Airbnb or something like that. My daughter could tell you all about it, she knows. But anyhow, they come to town and they rent this house, sometimes 2 or 3 families. They bring their boats and they put them in the canal and they party all night long or all weekend long. They get up Monday morning, they go home, or Sunday afternoon, or whenever it is. Well, the neighbor next door has an ailing wife and he's lived there a long time, and to say the very least, he is not pleased. So I contacted Bobby Payne, and I also talked to Kat at Yoho's office, Congressman Yoho's office, and doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot done about it, even though they've been talking about it in the legislature, because it's hard to restrict you from renting your house. So that's the other flip side to it. So only reason I even wanted to say this morning is the residents around there need to understand that now I think they can pretty much do what they were doing before, with the exception they can't have a professional wedding venue, but they can rent it to somebody who can then go have a wedding.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Harvey?
Mr. Turner, I agree with you on that, but I did ask that same question to our county attorney, and he assured me, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, so I'll let you speak to the question of if someone was to have an Airbnb or a VRBO or whatever, because I said to you, how many times do we rent a mountain house and invite all your friends to go up there and have a party? And then you mentioned that there are still issues with that, correct?
Well, there could be. I mean, they certainly have to follow all our current county ordinances. We've got the amplified sound ordinance. I mean, all of those things still apply. And certainly if it appeared that it had become a commercial business, and there could be some, from a code enforcement perspective, there could be some action in that regard. I know there are a number of jurisdictions around the state that have local ordinances that restrict those uses, Airbnb type things. Although there have been changes at the state, and I don't know that the Putnam County could enact something at this point. I think we've been preempted in that regard. But for example, Monroe County has some very strict B&B ordinances, and that's a big problem for them. As a matter of fact, the biggest problem from a code enforcement perspective in Monroe County, in the Keys, isn't the blighted structure, it's the multi-million-dollar home that's on Airbnb. So it's certainly an interesting problem. Nobody really foresaw in the past, but it's something that's happening. It's modern technology today, and the state certainly is working, I think, hard to try to get their arms around how to deal with it. But it's an evolving issue that we got to keep an eye on, and either keep working with the state or potentially pushing back against the state if we feel they're overreaching a little too far as preemption on the subject goes. So, but that's kind of the state of it right now. It's a little bit in flux. But again, any use of property within Putnam County does have to comply with our code, and that includes amplified sound, which I think might be one of the biggest concerns for somebody that were to be holding venues such as that.
Well, I still want to go on record and say I think The best tool, well, I think one of the best tools we have in our toolbox is a PUD, because it does identify what's going to happen in a community and what kind of conditions are set. And I think that's a wonderful vehicle to give the landowner the ability to use their property and give the citizens the idea of really what's going to happen in their area. Just speaking in general. So I'll just end my conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to speak.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. All right, do we have any appointments? And I'll start with Mr. Lible.
Yes, let's go down to the Value Adjustment Board, and I want to put Tom Townsend, to take Tom Townsend out, term expired, and Todd Dixon.
Todd Dixon.
And
okay.
Amanda, I'll get you his information afterwards.
Okay, right. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Pickens?
Because that one is not a district, don't we have to vote on it because it's not a district appointment?
It's a citizen at large.
Well, that's fine, but I think we have to vote on it because it's not a district appointment. If I understood correctly from past
Correct.
instructions.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, just for point of clarification before we do that, Commissioner Lible, obviously you've had contact with the gentleman, and he's willing to serve on the Value Adjustment Board. The reason why I asked that is I was directed to try to reach out to Mr. Townsend, and of course, I haven't been able to make contact with Mr. Townsend, but I understood he expressed interest and has showed up to the meeting. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here with the appointment. So you're ready to make your appointment for?
He would like to be relieved, and I found his relief.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for helping out with that one.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Is that a motion?
the Value Adjustment Board meets this Friday
Yeah, this
at
Friday.
9 o'clock, so he needs to be notified quickly.
Got it.
And he probably ought to talk to Tim Parker a little bit about, we had a short orientation a couple months ago, but just how things are gonna be run, so that's why I would advise that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, was that a motion by Commissioner Lible for Todd Dixon?
I'll offer one.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a first and a second to put Todd Dixon onto the Value Adjustment Board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion moves. All right, Mr. Pickens.
Yeah, one for the Fair Authority. I'd like to appoint Johnny Greenwood,
Okay, put him back.
continue his service to the Fair Authority. He's been involved for a number of years and has really worked hard with them about their security. Said he really enjoyed working with the Fair Authority, so Johnny Greenwood.
Okay, good. Okay, Mr. Turner,
I have none today, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harvey.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Wanda Ruckowitz for the Animal Services Advisory Committee.
Anything else?
That'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I still haven't been able to get a hold of Malcolm Fabre. If anyone happens to know a phone number where I can reach him, or.
I've got one for him. I'll give it to you after meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and that's the only one I had, so that's, takes care of appointments. We move now to our county administrator.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, good morning. Just a quick update, and I've got both Mr. Romay and I think I see Mr. Simpson back there in the room. As you know, we attended the 8 o'clock briefing this morning at the EOC regarding Hurricane Michael. We can, as the gentleman offered up the prayer this morning, we can all be very thankful here in Putnam County that this storm has taken the path that it has taken. But we do need to be mindful of those folks in the Panhandle in southeast Georgia. But we also are expecting probably some wind from this event. I think sustained winds right now are expected to be around 15 miles an hour, and we are expecting rain. We got a pretty good bit of rain last night.
Excuse me, did you say 50 or 15?
15. Yeah, 15. Let me make sure I say that correctly, 15. And another inch to 2 inches of rain is projected as well. So we're very fortunate, and so that's the latest on the storm of Hurricane Michael. Other than that, I think we're that's going to be the into my comments this morning. It's been a long 2 days, but again, we've been very blessed this year.
Mr. Manning?
I have nothing further, thank you.
Okay. And we'll have commissioner comments. I think I'll start with Mr. Lible.
I just want to comment, congratulate Bill Pickens and the South Putnam Rotary Club for a fine barn dance last Saturday night, and Swine and Wine, good times, a lot of great people there. And Mr. Harvey, I believe you were responsible for the barbecue.
I was, sir.
So congrats are in line for you too, sir. And that's all I have today, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll add to that. It was a very successful Swine and Wine, 26 years. It's amazing that the support of the community has continued over these years. I want to thank the Revels family, John William and John Revels, for allowing us to have the event at their farm, Crescent Lake Farms off of Clifton Road. We had about 220 people in attendance. I want to thank the Rotary Club of Interlochen and the Sunrise Club in Palatka for their service and serving and cooking. I want to thank Commissioner Lible, Commissioner Turner, Commissioner Harvey, Public Works Director Press Tompkins, Administrator Terry Suggs for attending to see how good of an event that was. But a special thank you for Larry Harvey. Larry is just amazing. He put together a team and cooked for 220 people, and it was absolutely excellent. How he comes up with the amount per person is just amazing. And the only thing that we ran out of were baked beans. And this morning we discovered that there was a full pan of baked beans that were left on the grill. And I pulled the grill from Crescent City to Palatka today, and Larry went out and lifted the grill up, and there was an extra plate of beans. So anyway, I don't know whose job was charged of taking care of that, but anyway, it was a great event. It should raise between $10,000 and $15,000, which will go to youth sports and our education commitment in Crescent City. So thank you, and thank you, Larry.
Thank you, sir.
Free baked bean lunch?
Beans in the oven if y'all want some.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, and I appreciate the accolades, but it's truly a pleasure to serve in Putnam County, and we all do in different areas. Speaking of cooking, we will be cooking again for QI Roberts, and I've invited the commissioners to come out this coming Friday, cooking 300 slabs of ribs for their FFA program, and I think their Beta Club program. And that'll be done. And then Saturday, cooking 200 butts for the Women's Club and 10 butts for the Moose Club in Crescent City for their events. So got a lot of butt cooking fixing to happen, and pork butts. Do want to say a big thank you to our commissioners for allowing me to serve on the Florida Association of Counties as the Rural Caucus chairman. Last week did attend a conference down in Punta Gorda, where the conference topic was the digital divide. And we are, as an association, taking a very, very strong look and plan. It's just not going to be a look. We're going to have a plan on the digital divide. If there is one, how can it be accomplished? How can we bring our rural counties into the 21st century? And what companies want to participate in that? So it's a very big bite of the elephant, if you will, but we're going to chew it up in little pieces and try to get some idea of really where our citizens need help, our businesses need help throughout rural Florida, and what providers want to come on board and help us, and what do they need from us to make our community successful. So we got a pretty good overview look of what we're going to be doing, and we're fixing to really dive into that, and you'll see some I'll give you some updates as we go along. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Turner?
I'd like to join everybody in saying how great the event was on Saturday night, and it was a very nice barn dance, as Commissioner Lible says, the Swine and Wine. I think it's been going on now for 20 years, 25?
26.
26 years. So I've probably attended 20 of them, and it was a very nice one. you know, I've said it before, but Commissioner Harvey invites people to cook, and we show up, and we got a fork in our hand or a spatula or whatever, and he spent since daylight, that's two in the afternoon, he spent since daylight that morning getting everything ready and getting them and spicing the meat and picking up supplies and what have you. And we just show up and stick a fork in it and get some of the get some of the accolades, but they go to him truly. I would also like to say that we do need to think of our neighbors on the West Coast. I think they're fixing to get hit pretty hard, and it might be a historical one. So we need to give them some thought. And my last thing I want to say is while I truly appreciate the effort that staff is making to return phone calls, we could still use a little bit of improvement. And I realize that how difficult it is and how monumental a task it is when you're getting 50 phone calls a day or 100 phone calls a day to have your supervisors call them back, or somebody call them back, even for just to let them know that they've been heard. So I'm not sure. In our last workshop, we had a conversation about it's very difficult for the supervisors to do it because they would never get anything done whatsoever, and the supervisors are really the only ones that know what the schedule is and what's going on. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but I wanted to say that I appreciate the effort that's going forward in returning the calls, but I would also like to continue trying to find ways to solve that dilemma if possible. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm done. Thank you.
And I think everyone has mentioned about, just be careful. We will get some wind gust. We're going to have lots of rain, and be in prayer for those that are in the path of this hurricane. I want to also bring up, of course, I wasn't at the Wine and Swine. I was at Paris Island. David Duffy, who was in the paper here probably 2 months ago, was a high school student that was on the band drummer and was accepted by the United States Marines to come in and be a drummer with the Marine marching band. That's quite an honor. Anyway, he's a friend of my daughter's, and since my oldest daughter, is a drill instructor there, we get kind of special privilege to where we can go in and sit in a good spot and watch this. But it was just an honor to watch Private First Class David Duffy representing Putnam County and now be a drummer with the Marine marching band. I mean, that's just, to me, it's just awesome, but it was quite a thing to see. And I also, while I was up there, I got a chance going through Facebook, and I see where Commissioner Lible really presented Putnam County in a great light, and it's just good to see. It's good to see how well our county's doing and the people who are very proud of our county, and I wanted to give him kudos for really stepping up and showing us in the good light that we should be seen in. And I think that's about it. With that, I hope everybody enjoys Putnam County, because there's so many things to see and so many things going on, and so many places that Mr. Harvey cooks at. Anyway, thank you and have a good day. Our meeting's adjourned.